Hey guys, welcome back to Mondays at the Museum. I'm Carrie and I'm here at the Anna Bemis Palmer Museum in York, Nebraska. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about dresses, and more specifically wedding dresses, that are currently on display as part of our History of York County exhibit. Now, it's really cool because the museum's collection consists of at least 30 wedding dresses, and that is playing it safe. There might be up to 40. And so we were really excited to be able to include some of these, especially for some of our smaller towns, as part of the History of York County exhibit. So today we're going to really quickly highlight all of the ones that are currently up. Okay, so for order, I am going to go basically by date order. So the earliest wedding to the latest wedding. We are currently in our famous family section, and these are the Gilmore girls. Yes, you heard that correctly. But for right now, we're focusing on the blonde on the left. So this wedding dress was worn by Sabina Elizabeth Gilmore at her wedding to Stephen Nelson Creech, and this was October 23rd, 1879. So quite a while ago, still in fabulous condition for how old it is. Now, their marriage took place in the first framed house in all of York County, and it was built by her father, Elias Gilmore. This dress was actually donated by Miss Margaret Creech. So we're going to take a closer look. You can see some bows there on the front all the way down. And there's even some on the sleeves. Again, from 1879. Okay, we are now in our Waco section. So this wedding dress and suit go together. The wedding dress belongs to Adolphine Ziegenhagen. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And the wedding suit belonged to Robert Beckard. So these guys got married on November 13th, 1887 at St. John's Lutheran Church in Waco, Nebraska. And these items were donated by Mr. and Mrs. Leo Beckard. So check out the beading on this, right? And yes, it is a wedding dress, and it is maroon. Pretty cool bows. And then the suit that goes along with it is not actually black, it's more of a green. But you get your vest underneath. And then, of course, the long pants. So, dress and suit from 1887. We are back in our famous families section, and these wedding dress and suits were worn by Mary Virginia Smith. Now, she went by Maybird in her wedding to George Spurlock, and their wedding was on November 23rd, 1898. And not only do we have the dress and the suit, it is quite the dress. We also have a photo of her in the dress. So there you can see the photo. Walking back a little bit, there's the full dress. And you've got the suit here. And we also have a picture of George, not in the suit, but you get the picture. And accessories like gloves and shoes and a garter. Again, their wedding took place in 1898, and they're in the famous family section because of this guy right here. This is Burwell Spurlock, dad of George, and he is actually the founder of Mother's Jewels Home, which we have a photo of right here. You guys would probably know it as Epworth Village. And actually, Anna taught there for quite a few years. When I mention Anna, I mean our founder, Anna Bemis Palmer, if that wasn't clear. So now we are in our Charleston section, and looking at this dress, it is from 1908. Okay, it was worn by Alma Swanson, and she married a guy named Clinton Swan. So yes, went from Swanson to Swan. It was on February 12th, 1908 at the bride's house, and she lived near Charleston, which is why we have it in our Charleston section. And the dress itself was handmade by the bride. So Clinton, aka the groom, he was a rooming house operator in York. They had 2 sons and a daughter together, and they actually moved to California later in life to Riverside, and they were both buried there. This item was donated by Donald Swan, and again, 1908. We are back in our famous family section with another episode of the Gilmore Girls, this time focusing on the right. This dress was worn by Bertha Littler at her wedding to Abraham Gilmore, and they got married August 17th, 1909. Now, this set of Gilmores was actually the last descendants to the Gilmore family of Blue Veil. They were a pretty big name around here. This was donated by John and Doris Wallace. Doris herself was in the Gilmore family. Big bow there. Really long dress. Moving on, we are in our Thayer section. So this wedding dress is from 1909, and it was worn by Miss Nellie Elizabeth Coons, and she wore it during her marriage to Ambrose Craven Stream. They were married September 1st, 1909, in Thayer. Now, Nellie's dad, his name was Melvin, and he was kind of a big grain guy in Thayer at the time, and so a big, huge business name, kind of a household name in the time of the early 1900s. And so they actually got married. Now, Ambrose was originally from Seward, but after they got married, they had 5 kids together. Now, Nellie passed away in 1942, and Ambrose passed away in 1964, and they were both buried in the Waco Cemetery. So again, this dress is from 1909, and really cool. Here's the dress. There's the photo of her in the dress. You can see the pattern there on the shoulders. Matches the patterns here on the shoulders. Moving on to our Gresham area. So this wedding dress is from 1923, more specifically February 20th, 1923, and it belonged to Bertha Graff. She got married to Orville Keebaugh on February 20th, 1923. Bertha was a teacher and Orville was a farmer. They moved to a farm outside Gresham after they got married. Now, this dress is in really great condition for 1923, so over 100 years old. But along with the dress, we've got shoes, we've got a napkin, we've got a book from the wedding party, and not included in the display, and I am not lying to you when I say this, people don't believe me, there is a piece of cake from this wedding in the collection downstairs. It's in a box, in a box, in a box. I saw cake on the listing and I thought like, oh, a picture of the cake or like plastic cake. No, not even the top, like literal slice of cake from 1923 in our collection. It is not on display. I was too freaked out to put it on display. If you really want to see it, you could ask if you want to see it. But yeah, 101-year-old cake in the display to go with this dress from 1923. Moving on, we've got this dress from Elaine Dahlgren. So this is actually from her first wedding. She wore it on her wedding date to Glenn Fenning, and that was February 2nd, 1947. Now, Elaine was born in Grand Island in 1925. She moved to York. She was really active in the Presbyterian Church. She was the first ever York Fest queen and worked for the city of York as a senior citizen coordinator at the community center. She married Glenn Fenning in 1947, but actually he passed away and she remarried a guy named Harry Dahlgren. And she herself passed away really recently, actually in 2022 at the age of 96. And she herself is the one that donated the dress. And to go with her wedding dress, we have the military uniform for her first husband, Glenn Fenning. He was in the Army, and he was a member of the 134th Volunteer Infantry of the 35th Division, aka the York Boys, which you can tell from the symbol here. He passed away in 1973, and he is buried in Greenwood Cemetery. Really cool, because it's got all the pins and patches. And the last wedding dress that is on display currently, with the most recent wedding date, is actually a wedding suit. So this was worn by Marge Norquist. She married Delbert Norquist on April 26, 1953 at the First Evangelical Lutheran Church in McCool. So it is in the McCool section. She was born in 1934 in Hastings. She graduated from York High School, then went to work for Western Electric in Lincoln. After getting married, she and her husband ran Dell's Frontier in York before transitioning to farming. And you've got the suit. It's really in stellar condition. Again, from 1953. So those are the wedding dresses that are currently on display here as part of the History of York County exhibit, and runs into the last day of February, so you have plenty of time. But make sure to swing by and take a closer look. We are open Tuesdays through Fridays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we have some really cool programming coming out soon, so pay attention. We hope to see you next week.